Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored. This is the Xingbao brand Tank Mech 2-in-1, which I bought from barweir.com. The price is approximately $36 US. I got mine for a little bit less because of combined shipping with other things, but this comes with just under 770 pieces. The height of it is about 9.5 inches. 24 centimeters is the height, and just relative to a random minifigure, standard size minifigure, that just gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here. Again, this is a 2-in-1 set. I will be showing you the alternate mode of it later in the video, which is a tank that you cannot build at the same time. Also, just to be very clear, this does not convert. It looks like it might convert, but honestly, you have to take the whole thing apart to switch between the two. And they don't try to deceive you into thinking that you can transform it or anything like that. It's not, they don't market it as a transforming thing. You know, it's 100% you can build either thing from the parts included in the set. First of all, the build experience for this was pretty decent. Part quality was mostly good. I had a couple of spots along the way that felt just a little bit tight or a little bit loose. There's one piece in particular on the back that's inconsequential that has just a little bit of looseness to the point where I don't like it. I wouldn't want to see more parts with the same level of clutch power. I'll point that out as I turn around, but the overwhelming majority of it went together just fine. I feel like the parts from the parts that this brand uses tend to be just a little bit tighter. This is my first time buying something from them that I knew of. Tend to be just a little bit tighter in clutch power than what I'm used to. There's one part that, let's see, where is it? Oh, it's right here, where the color match doesn't quite, it doesn't quite match. The colors don't quite match. You can see that 1x1 tower right there is just a little bit off. Otherwise, everything else felt pretty good. The more mechanical pieces, including the treads and also the joints, very importantly, the joints, the major ball joints, those are perfectly fine. Definitely holds itself up well. I've messed around with it. Things aren't loosening up, but the part that was loose is, yeah, this one right here. This one right here, it has a ball end piece with a bar on it, and you can just see how it's a little bit loose right now. It's not going to fall out, but it has a bar end piece with a ball in it going into a headlight brick. I'm not sure which of those has the looseness on it. Also, as far as the design is concerned, there's one small design error right in here. Technically, what we would consider to be a quote-unquote illegal technique. Some brands just don't allow it whatsoever because the parts don't quite fit together. It's just a third of a plate thickness difference. I forget the exact measurement, but there's just something in here. If you recognize it, if you build this, you'll recognize it. It's just a small thing that's just a little bit off. I'm calling out the things that I like least about this first, just kind of giving you a general, overview of what we're dealing with here. Because again, it's my first time getting anything from Xingbao. But the design overall felt pretty good. It uses only prints. There are way more prints than you even see on this, because some prints get kind of hidden away. There's some pieces that are like see on the underside of this, where were some other ones that were hidden in this mode. Oh gosh, I guess they're really hidden away. There's some other printed pieces that are used in the alternate. It's like under here. You can see just on the inside over there. But overall, the instructions were plenty easy to follow, and I like what this looks like when it's completed. Let me show you a little bit about the articulation. Unfortunately, there is no waist or torso swivel to this, so for turning things around, you have to use the legs and the head. The head has a double swivel, so there's a side to side here. It's also able to pivot up and down, but there's just a slight range of motion. If you build it slightly differently, just leave a little bit more slack in the joints there, you will be able to get a little bit more articulation, but for the most part, you're just going to be turning this back and forth. The build of the head, like I mentioned, just has that one thing that's a little bit off, so I'm feeling the parts moving just a little bit in the sides right there as I do that. Again, good friction in the major ball joints here, not a problem there. So you've got ball joints here. This is able to swivel in and out and also come up and down. A little bit limited because the height of the shoulders here, as far as how far in the shoulders will pinch. But then, of course, you've got the forward and back, which is completely unrestricted. And you also have elbows. So this can straighten out, and then it can come up to That's 90 degrees. I think that's exactly 90 degrees there. And then you do have articulation for the fingers. So these are able to open up, including the thumb. I can feel that this one is just slightly loose right here as well. So usually, and this is a common thing, usually these brick-built things, especially with ball and bar pieces, will not actually use completely round cross sections. They'll have some spots where there's some flat spots, which helps prevent things from getting stuck together. But this one, unfortunately, has that combination right in there, where it feels just a little bit loose. It's not falling off, but it's just a little bit of looseness. Just another thing to be aware of. This technically is able to rotate, but only it's able to go that far because the gun is in the way. Down at the legs, again, good friction right in here, but you can see that there's so much weight in the lower leg that this is now falling right there. Uses a different style of ball joint, so it's just an independent ball piece right there. That is not an issue for actually getting it to hold a pose, any pose that it's able to actually get into that actually makes sense for it. There, I did not have the foot, set up right, but you've got some kinds of range of motion. So I didn't have an issue with the knees not having enough articulation. However, there is an issue with the feet not having enough traction. There's not enough friction. See how that's able to slip out? That's just because there's not enough friction on the ground because it's plastic on a hard, smooth surface right here. So that's going to be your biggest limitation as far as what you can do for realistic poses. Because down here, you've got another ball joint. Thankfully, this is able to go side to side quite a bit, so you are able to get it planted. But if it slides out from under you, then having the foot flat on the ground isn't going to help you, but all that much. Again, for getting it to rotate, you're going to use the ball joints down here, to try to create something that looks like it's turning the torso a bit. I want to show you what these are like. You've got these little kind of suggestions of parts of smoke canisters from the tank form, kind of residuals of them that are just a little bit flimsy, just in the sense that, they're just small pieces connected by a single clip. That's something that you'll need to watch out for. But overall, I feel like just about any pose that I reasonably want within the range that's allowable by the friction of the feet, I can get, and it will hold. I personally like using the ball joints, and I feel like the way that these ones are oriented kind of makes sense. They're not restricting themselves. The things that are restricted the most are the wrists, not being able to rotate inside of the accessories. You've got kind of this poking blunt force weapon over here, also works partially as a shield. And then over here, obviously, you've got the major cannon to watch out for. These don't do anything. The treads are just kind of showing you that it's something that in universe would transform, but in real life, like I said, does not actually do that. I do like seeing the little light in there. One other small thing about parts. That Exoforce hand piece is what it was originally taken from the major brand, the design there. It's just a little alien robot hand thing. The mold for it actually slipped a little bit. It's a little bit off. If you look at that really, really closely, you can actually see the seam between the two sides in there. So a lot of little things about part quality, huh? A lot of little things about part quality that are not ideal. I mean, overall, I felt okay putting this together, but kind of taking a look at the whole picture afterwards, after the fact, kind of putting it all together, I do realize that the part quality probably for this company, and this isn't that old of a kit, part quality probably for this company, whatever manufacturer they use, is not quite up to the standards that I'm personally used to. The strangest thing for me about parts is that this is the main model. This is the big one. This is the one that I would normally expect to use all the parts, and it doesn't. I mean, that's quite a bit of stuff that's left behind. All these track pieces, I guess these are going to be used for drive sprockets, and then some big plates as well. This whole swivel, I'm assuming that's going to be used for the turret. I mean, definitely a lot of these pieces could have been just attached to the model. Just strengthening some things, just thickening some things. I guess they didn't quite have room for for the treads, just the way that they designed it. But yeah, this is odd to have this kind of stuff left over. So let me go ahead and use these pieces, such as will be used, and go ahead and do the transformation. And well, it's, like I said, going to involve taking the mech apart and rebuilding it. The end result here is better than I expected, switching over to the alternate mode. However, the process of getting there, not so much. First of all, this is larger than I expected, and it uses quite a few of the pieces. I'll show you the leftover pieces a little bit later, but I mean, here's a random minifigure for the sake of comparison. A couple weird things about this. First of all, during the build process, there are a bunch of steps where honestly, they should have changed the order of the operations. They should have changed the order of putting stuff together, especially along the sides and the top. You want to be able to squeeze things together, but it's already on the main chassis. And when you just push down the way that, where parts are intended to be added in at any given moment, you end up just kind of disassembling the thing. You have a little unscheduled disassembly repeatedly. And I found that leaving large chunks of the sides off as you build them, and then just waiting until you have a lot of it all completed, and then putting it on makes so much more sense. So much more sense. The instructions themselves were perfectly fine for this, and I really didn't have problems finding the right parts. There wasn't any confusion with that. You do have to have all of your parts laid out in front of you. You probably want to do some pre-sorting for yourself as well. But at the end of the day, you end up with a decent looking tank thing. And that's right. This doesn't get flat here. This is about as low as you can get. So you get elevation, but that's just it. So you're not able to even get just flat with the barrel. Unfortunately, this does also hide away a bunch of printed pieces. There are so many printed pieces on the inside where you just can't see those bits anymore. I especially was looking forward to seeing some hatches, some round hatches with the print pieces that they had on the round 2x2 tiles, and those don't show up, but there are obviously plenty of prints that do still show up. And this thing has a nice amount of bulk to it, just in general. It's a decent looking thing. It's not realistic, as far as I can tell, but it's a respectable build. It's got some heft to it, some thickness, some density to the build. It's definitely not super hollow. Unfortunately, the treads don't work great. There's a lot of friction in there. Well, just a lot more than I would personally like. Now you can adjust how many treads you use, but I've got some looseness in here, but it still feels just a little bit tight to me. So if I'm on a smooth surface, the treads just aren't going to move on their own. You can see I'm pushing down quite a bit now, and they're trying to go, but there's a limit to it. But all in all, hey, not too bad. That is unfortunate. The blue right there, but otherwise, the color scheme's looking good. Level of detail is looking pretty good. These hatches can actually open up. You know what? I didn't think about this. I wonder, is this actually possible? Can I put a random minifigure in one of these hatches? Because it's 2 studs wide, I can. So if I had a military style figure, I could put one there and I could put one there. That's cool. Okay, that's actually a good thing. This remote turret out here for a point defense, I think you're not able to move it forward. I thought it was able to move forward than that, but it does have there's a joint back there to allow it to go forward and back, but you just really don't have a lot of usable range there. I like the little smoke canister launchers as well, but they need to be angled out a bit ideally. I think you can actually angle them just a little bit, but there's only just a very slight little range in there. You can also angle them up and down, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, there we go. See, for how complex and large this set is, this really is not a lot to have left over. And I think these are just truly spares. Like some of these smaller ones are truly just extras that aren't used in either version. So this is pretty impressive. An impressive percentage of the parts of the set used for this B model, this alternate model. Worst thing about the actual process of getting the mech apart is just when you have a couple pieces go into these macaroni pieces, and you might actually see a little bit of wear on. You see a little bit of wear, not that much, but I actually ended up just using a pair of pliers to get the pieces out because they were a little bit too tight in these in particular. The rest was fine, but these were a little bit tricky. real quickly, because I personally have not seen anything from this company before or not had it in hand, and I haven't shown any of it before. Let me show you what their instructions are like. From the outside, looks very nice. And then inside, it's pretty straightforward, pretty standard fare. You know, they just lighten things up once you've put the pieces in place. I don't know, it just kind of flows just fine. I'm sure I've seen whatever exact program was used to make these instructions. I'm sure I've seen its product before, and it just feels familiar enough to me. I really didn't have any issue with that. These are clear. I feel like the colors, at least for this one, the colors were rendered well enough where I'd never had any confusion about what color needed to be used. The closest thing to confusion would be between gray and the dark tan in some cases, or gray and black, but that just didn't work out that way. They do have one errata sheet that was included with mine, which just had to do with the number of treads, and that was pretty obvious when I was putting it together. They're just like, yeah, use this many, not the number that are specified there, to get a better tension. And then they give you the parts list back here, which again just shows a certain level of clarity and does separate out also the printed pieces, which are their own SKUs, and there are a lot of them. And then it's the same sort of thing with the tank form here. Just, you don't have the benefit of bag numbers here, because you do have to have everything open and just kind of pre-sort on your own if you want. Again, this was about $36 shipped for around 770 pieces with all prints on it. And it's my first time ever getting my hands on something that was Xingbao branded overtly. Would I buy it again? Would I buy something else from the company? Absolutely, yes. This is one of those cases where the price is really, really low for, and I'm trying to test this as I try out different brands and different products from different parts of different brands' development. I'm trying to find kind of what the lines are. This is one of those cases where the price is very low for the amount of stuff that's here, for the total volume, the total mass of stuff. You know, this is not a small kit whatsoever. It's not a small spindly mech. It's got some thickness to it. It has everything that looks bulky is solid all the way through, with very few air gaps on the inside. So this is quite a bit of stuff, again, comparing it to the size of an average minifigure like that. There's a lot of stuff here for $36 shipped. That's around the price that I've seen this for at various places. But again, as I demonstrated, this is not a perfect kit by any means. The part quality is a step down. I'd say maybe a step and a half to 2 steps down on maybe a 10-step scale compared to top of the line amongst alternate brands. You know, it's definitely not all the way up there. So that's something that's nice to be able to identify and say, okay, for a change, I'm seeing something that's cheap from an alt brand that's also not top quality. This is where there are compromises, where I'm not getting the best stuff for my money anymore because I'm spending so little. And that's valid. I think that there's room on the market for things like that, because for me as a collector and displayer, like, this is perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with any of the issues here. If I did, like, even if one of these upper joints was a little bit loose, where I couldn't leave it in a pose, where I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving it in a pose, or if the arm was falling down, like, I personally would just tighten up those joints. I just put a little bit of fingernail polish on them, or the clear gel, or, you know, there's all sorts of things that you can do from the plastic modeling world, even just scuff it up a little bit, all sorts of things you can do to adjust it. I would still be okay, but I'm going to let you know about that, right? I'm not going to try to cover stuff up like that and say it's perfectly okay for companies to do that and charge you however much. This is a case where there are compromises, and thankfully I didn't have any compromises that bad, but there's some little pieces, you know, that aren't where they need to be, that aren't as good as they need to be. Technically, these knees should be a little bit tighter. Not a problem for me, but just want to make sure that is made clear. That one piece back there, this being a little bit off as well. Yeah, that's all compromises in order to get to what feels like a very, very low price here. So I will definitely try out something else from this brand in the future, minifig not included. In the future, and make sure that I try out some of their newest stuff as well, just see if they're making some progress, if they're increasing their quality, or if it's staying the same. And I mean, I like the look of this thing. It's the main reason that I personally bought it. It was also a great opportunity to try out a different brand. And again, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep looking for where this whole entire market is, not just focus on the proven best brands with the best quality pieces that I personally know and that a lot of people know. I'm going to keep experimenting and trying stuff and showing you the results. I hope that this was a valuable video for you. Definitely for young kids, I would not recommend this at all, especially when you saw some of the issues that I talked about with the tank mode. Where just kind of the order of operations of how some of the stuff went together didn't make the most sense. And if I wasn't being careful there, if I had a attention span that wasn't quite as good, or if I had manual dexterity that wasn't quite as good, I would not have as much success putting it together. And also just generally for folks who only want the top quality stuff as far as brick quality is concerned, this probably isn't it. Probably isn't gonna make you happy. If you're gonna notice the little things that I pointed out and they're gonna bug you, I wouldn't buy at this time. I wouldn't recommend buying anything from this brand because I'm willing to bet that this is pretty close. That this is relatively recent production and that they will have more of those issues in other sets. But like I said, I will buy more and test that theory. Again, hope that this video was of value to you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.